Start. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files. This one's going to be hosted by Denis Barthe. It was his idea to do this, and so I'm just going to introduce the participants tonight. We got Tom Cap from Into the Fucking Void. I got his hat on, a local Black Sabbath tribute here in the tri-state area of New York. We got Tracy Stanton from WXAX Radio, and I'm drinking from the cup from the station. So we got Myles of Metal back from New Orleans. He had a couple weeks off. We got Obie Rednum from Norway staying up all night as usual. We got Jaymz Delisle. Did I say it correctly tonight?
You said it correctly tonight. Absolutely.
I didn't say it correctly last week. And he's
Yeah,
also
Delis.
in the band Delis. I said it how it looks, not how it. Anyhow,
I'm doing
so
great.
he's also from the local band Crucial Pain. Got Count Ralphus in the center square. He's our metal historian, also from the Hudson Valley Squares, Pete Pardo's channel. We got Tony Dio back in. We got Craig Kaminski from the Hudson Valley Squares, Sea of Tranquility. We got Robert Tuttle from Lady Evil. We got Steve Levin, of course, no introduction needed. He's here just about every week. We got Ed Farsley from Armageddon Productions. And welcome back, everyone. John McEntee from the Mighty Incantation, back from his European jaunt. So he's back with us. It's good to see him. And Sasquatch, I'm going to throw this over to you and tell us what we're doing tonight.
All right. Well, because of our reputation to be kind of an asshole, I thought it would be great to do a pointless exercise of trying to decide which is the best between Sabbath Dio, the two albums we're talking about, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, and Ozzy Osbourne, first two albums with Randy Rhoads, Blizzard of Oz, and Diary of a Madman. Like, in reality, guys, we're talking about four complete classic of heavy metal history. Like, there's really no losers in these four albums, but I thought it would be fun to have a discussion and make you guys pick one side, either Sabbath or Ozzy. Recently, there have been more and more, as the generation of metalheads kind of become younger, and sometimes we see people having debate on those past heroes of ours, and somebody like, well, Rhodes is better than Iommi, Dio's better than Ozzy, this and that. So I thought it would be great for us to really nail it down once for all, and finally figure out, is there a winner between these two sides. From a release date, first one of these four albums was Heaven and Hell, released on April 18, 1980. And what a return in fine form for Black Sabbath. When I first heard Neon Nights, I had no idea it was Black Sabbath. After that, Ozzy, doesn't want to be completely forgotten, came back on September 12, 1980 with Blizzard of Oz, complete annihilation of all the metal worlds back then. And then again, we have Ozzy again on October 1981, who came with Diary of a Madman, and then November 4th, 1981, the Mob Rules came out. So, four classics, and then we're gonna go to the panel, and we're gonna make you guys pick side because that's fun. That's it. So who goes first?
That's up to you. You're the boss tonight.
Okay, tonight, because he never does it or barely ever, Mr. Keeler is gonna go first.
All right.
Yay!
So I'm old and I got a lot of history with these bands.
Yeah.
I saw the Heaven and Hell tour at the Lebanon Valley Speedway in West Lebanon, New York. For those not from the area, it's just by Albany, New York, the capital of New York State. It was a very surreal evening, a night. We were young kids going to the show. Security was done by HA. There were people that died leaving this concert. There was pits of cars pushed down into trenches with portable lighting, with the cars set on fire. I just remember the guys parked next to us walking around barefoot and broken glass, tripping their balls out. It was just a crazy night. Sabbath actually went on first that night, and Boyster Cult was the headliner. We remember being in the parking lot and getting there, and we just started hearing the Sabracadabra theme and heading into the show. Giant crosses being brought into the crowd. Little hazy from back then, but saw that tour. Also saw the Mob Rules tour. Saw that a couple times. I saw it at the Glens Falls Civic Center in upstate New York. I saw it in Binghamton at Broome County Arena. So I'll discuss a little bit about that. Ozzy Blizzard of Oz saw this tour, Mid Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, with the mighty Motorhead opening up. So
Wow.
very
Good time.
memorable for that. And Diary of a Madman tour, I do not think I saw. If I did see it, it was after Randy passed when they came around, but I don't have as much memory as those other two. But when you're talking about these albums, I thought this was a pretty tough assignment. It's really hard to go against Ozzy Osbourne and this, but going back in time, when I went to see these shows, to me, Black Sabbath were the kings then. Ozzy wasn't in Sabbath anymore. He started his own thing. And yeah, I got into that too, but Sabbath were my guys. And Dio with Sabbath was totally badass back then. And it's just great stuff. As I listen to the albums at work today, when I'm getting ready to do this, of course, I know these albums inside and out. At first, I thought it was going to be a little harder for me, but I am definitely going. I mean, I'm supposed to talk about the songs. So if I'm going to look at Over the Mountain, I'm going to look at Blizzard of Oz. A couple of songs I would pick out. Starter, I Don't Know, is great. I like Suicide Solutions. I like Revelation, Mother Earth. Of course, Crazy Trains played out. But how huge is that song that you hear it at every goddamn football game? You're a college football, like college bands playing it in the stands. It's just like an epic track. So great album. And Diary of a Madman, my highlights from that first song, Over the Mountain. I like Believer. I like Sado a lot. I like the song Diary of a Madman. And now if I go over to Black Sabbath, quickly, I will pick up the Heaven and Hell album. I mean, there's no bad songs on this album, are there, really? Starts out with Neon Nights, kicks you right in the head. Of course, the epic Heaven and Hell, the Die Young, the Children of the Sea, Lady Evil. Hey, there's a guy here that plays in a band called Lady Evil down there, Robert Tuttle.
Where do you think you stole it from?
I think you might have, since you're a Dio and tribute kind of, it might have something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'd say out of these four records, we weren't supposed to pick one. I like this album better than all four of these. This is another one where Falling Off the Edge of the World starts it off, and what a killer song. Turn Up the Night, Sign of the Southern Cross, another epic one. Country Girl. It's just badass. So if you put a gun to my head today, I'm going with Black Sabbath. The Black Sabbath. You know, it's hard to go against Ozzy, but these two albums are just so heavy. And of course, they don't have Randy Rhoads playing, but you got to pick one. He said I can't be indecisive, so I'm not going to be. That's me. I'm done now. I can go home. I'm shutting off. I'm going to watch a hockey game or something.
Very nice.
It's an easy night.
Who's next on the screen? Oh, Tom got into the fucking void.
He should be an expert on this title.
Yeah.
Okay. So like Steve was saying, I thought this was going to be a lot easier, and I went song by song on all 4 records, and just kind of matched them up and did that. And in the end, I'm going with Dio Sabbath too. And again, it's nothing against Blizzard and Diary. I mean, epic records. I first obviously was really upset when Ozzy wasn't in Sabbath anymore, but now looking back in hindsight, I'm so glad, because look at these great records we got because of that on both sides, which we would have never had, and it's just, it was like nobody knew who Randy Rhoads was, and he came just like blazing out of hell, out of nowhere. And when we found out Dio was going to be in Sabbath, all we really knew about him was a little bit of Elf and some Rainbow and stuff, and it was like, wow, how's that going to sound, And man, when it came out, we all ran and bought it the first day, just like the Ozzy record, and we were just like, this is unbelievable, man. This is great stuff. So I mean, I seen all the shows, all the tours for those records.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, Spectrum, Philly Spectrum for Heaven and Hell, 8th row. And it was like unbelievable, man. The band was on fire. Iommi was like rejuvenated because he had a writing partner, and it wasn't all on him. And man, it just gelled so nice, man, and Ozzy, he probably would have been dead if it wasn't for what happened between, Sharon bringing him back and him putting that band together and writing all them great songs and everything. But song by song, I got to go Dio Sabbath, man. I got to go Dio Sabbath. Just there's no way around it. No way around it.
Very nice, very nice. So 2-0 for Sabbath, Dio.
Yeah.
Which is, well, let's see what happened next. Because I think it's not going to be such a.
You're not bringing out the broom yet?
Yeah, no broom. All right. Thanks, buddy. All right, next is Tracy. You're up.
Oh my God, what are you doing to me? Hold on. I'm pulling up the notes.
Shockwave.
Okay. With Heaven and Hell, I have Children of the Sea, Dying Young, besides the title track, Die Young, and Lonely is the World, which I love that song. That's an intense song. And with Mob Rules, I have Voodoo, Sign of the Southern Cross, Turn Up the Night, and Over. Blizzard, it's so hard to pick from the Ozzy albums because they're so influential with me. You got Mr. Crowley, I Don't Know, Goodbye to Romance, and Suicide Solution. Diary of a Madman, Flying High Again, which was the basis of like our teenage years. Believer. You can't kill rock and roll. You just can't. And a personal favorite, which is not one of their technical best, but I love Little Dolls. And in my opinion, because they were so influential at that point in time in my life, I mean, I was 10 and 11. And when these albums came out, so they are the basis of what I am today. So Ozzy has to take it for me, even though I firmly believe that Dio is a much better vocalist all in all, and probably more technically proficient. The Dio Sabbath should take it, but because of how influential this was for me, it definitely has to be Ozzy.
All right,
Very nice.
Sasquatch.
Very
We
nice.
don't have to get the broom like last.
No broom.
No broom.
Couple
All right,
weeks.
that's why we do it.
I might
right?
be under the radar
Wow.
with everybody else, but
Oh,
Hey, Sweet got the broom last week, so
yeah.
last time.
Yes,
Right?
That was
Days
I
to
never
save
saw
the
that
night.
one.
Who's next on my show? Oh, going all the way to Norway. Ove, you're up, buddy.
All right.
Can't wait to
Yeah.
hear your take on all this.
Yeah, well, I wasn't very old when this happened, so I'm born in '81. So for me, I came a little late. Um,
He was
it
listening in the
started-
womb.
Huh?
Yeah.
You were listening in the womb.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We had the headphones on. The belly.
So it all started for me with Sabbath. Sabbath started. It started with Pantera, and then it came to Sabbath, and then I heard Ozzy later, like when he departed from Sabbath and stuff. So for me, it's kind of like I heard Sabbath first, and then Ozzy afterwards. But I really like. I came in. I didn't hear the original albums of Ozzy. I heard when they put the new drum tracks and added some new bass, didn't they?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the later ones. Yeah.
Yeah. That sacrilege thing that Sharon Osbourne did.
It's like
Good
the
God.
lamest
Should have
thing
been hung
ever.
for that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I heard first. So
Ah.
so now today or this past week I've actually gone back to hear the original recordings, and that was, how should I say it, quite different.
Yes.
Those recordings that they re-record them with that with a Metallica bass player guy and somebody else, those aren't available
them more
anymore, are
drama.
they? I think she stopped them, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they reissued them again, they put the original tracks back on.
Oh, they did. Good.
Yeah, I mean that's just terrible.
Oh, that was
Especially with a dead guy in the band, he has no choice.
Yeah, really.
Publishing.
So I'm gonna start with Ozzy and Blizzard of Oz, and favorite songs is Steal Away the Night. I really like that track. Suicide Solution, and I really like that No Bones movie. I kind of find it kind of a comedic, kind of like funny track. It's kind of like a uplifter in the whole album,
Hell
like
yeah.
a break in the seriousness. For Diary of a Madman, I really like. It's probably my favorite of those. My favorite song from that album is Little Dolls. I just like it because there's no other track like it.
Oh.
And
song.
SATO and Believer. Going over to Sabbath, I mean Heaven and Hell. I mean, for me, it kind of sounds like, oh shit, we got to get it together to get some money because we're running low on blow kind of deal. So they really had to get their shit together and stuff. So it's, for me, that album has a lot of course, there's a lot of famous songs and stuff, but it's kind of a nice Black Sabbath album. It's kind of, it's like very nice sounding, very clean. So it's kind of like we have to get our shit together and play like good songs so we get money for it. Then we can go to Mob Rules and just go back to who we are and just really nail it to the wall. But as for songs, my favorite song from Heaven and Hell is Lonely is the Word, Heaven and Hell, and Walking Away. And now for Mob Rules, which is the mob of it all. I really love that album. Favorite song of all of Dio's songs for Sabbath is Over and Over, Slipping Away, and Turn Up the Night. And for me, it's Sabbath, fucking bloody Sabbath.
Very nice. All right. Go there.
Did you guys notice someone else pop into this room?
Yeah.
Does anybody know who that is?
No.
Steve,
Yes.
that's my bass player, Rob Shaw from Into the Void. He just wanted to
Oh, nice.
participate. He just want to check it out.
Well, I mean, if he wants to give us 2 words, yeah, he can come in.
I'll text him again, but I think he said he just want to spectate. He don't want to.
Oh yeah, well, then he
You
can watch it. Then he can watch it
tomorrow.
when we put it up in the morning.
Dry run. That's a dry run.
I was wondering, it's like one time. Well, I remember way back in the day, John, we had an episode where someone actually just showed up, and we didn't know who they were.
He said, glad to be here. I'll just watch for now.
All right, cool. Oh, thanks, Rob.
Hiding in the shadows.
That's his girlfriend's picture. That's not him.
That's what makes the
Glad you cleared that up there, Tom.
Got a lot of Into the Void going on tonight. It's a nice, comfortable hat too. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Yeah, you really have to explain things in today's day and age.
All right, before I let James go, I need to say something about him before he goes, because when you guys did the Slayer episode, Mr. Keeler put the Slayer episode on YouTube, and like maybe like I don't know, like an hour later, like my phone rang. It's one of my buddy, like a huge Slayer fan, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I gotta talk to you." And I'm like, what the fuck going on? Yeah, like he's like, yeah, I want to talk to you about the Rock Fantasy File channel. I'm like, okay, what's up with it? Like, you want to come in? Like, he goes, no, who's that guy, James? He said he doesn't like Rain and Blood. Like,
I give no fucks.
He said it was overrated. He didn't say he didn't like it.
Yes.
It's funny that James, like comments made a guy in Portland, Oregon, told me about it. That's all.
Way to go, James.
And that's what we need.
That's why James with us. That's why James with us. All right, James, you're up, buddy.
All right. Goddamn. When this first came up, I was like, fuck, how am I going to do this? It's like picking, do I love Pam Anderson or Jenny McCarthy more? Which one? Man, Black Sabbath is a band that's really, really, really fucking near and dear to my heart, and has been since I was 12 years old and first picked up a guitar. I think the first riff I ever played was Iron Man. So Sabbath is it's in my fucking DNA, So I love Ozzy too. I love Ozzy solo. I remember my brother, when he went away to prison, had this record under our bed. We had bunk beds in my house. And I remember pulling this fucking record out and just looking at the cover. I wasn't allowed to mess with the turntable at the time. One day when I was about 9 years old, I got the balls to go in the living room and slap this thing on the fucking turntable. And I didn't understand what side 1 or side 2 was. I just knew the cover of this looked like a fucking horror movie. So I had to hear it. And of course, I put on side 2 first. So the first thing I ever heard from Ozzy solo was the organ in Mr. Crowley.
Oh, shit.
Like, oh, shit. It is a horror movie. Very much a fucking horror movie. And I've been into Ozzy ever since. And, at that time, because I'm a younger dude like Ovi as well, Zakk Wylde was the guitar player in his band at that point. And Zakk Wylde, because of when I got into Ozzy, has always been my favorite Ozzy guitarist. I love Randy Rhoads. I love Jakey Lee. I love Gus G.
I know Zakk Wylde.
Fucking all great. They're all fucking great, but Zakk Wylde is my dude. So after the past 3 days of listening to these 4 albums back to back in various order, my choice got a little easier. As much as I do love Randy Rhoads, and I was 1 when he died, so I have no idea how much he was lauded as this guitar god that he's become. I had no fucking idea, of course, but I recently went back to Lemmy's autobiography, White Line Fever, and to quote him, this is coming from Lemmy, it's not coming from me, so don't fucking crucify me in the comments on YouTube.
People are going to
go ahead if you fucking want to. What do I really give a shit? You ain't paying my fucking bills, you scumbags. So to quote Lemmy, Randy wasn't the guitar player he became after death. Randy was a good player to be sure, but he wasn't the great innovator he was later made out to be. That's just a quote from Lemmy. You can take that the way you want to fucking take it. Tony Iommi means so goddamn much to me. I've only seen them live once. I've been listening to them for 30 plus years. I learned how to play guitar, putting in Black Sabbath cassettes into my boombox and rewind, play, rewind, play, rewind, play. Where's that note? Where's that fucking note? Where is it? Where is it? Where's that riff? So ultimately, I'm going with Black Sabbath in this. I got to go with Sabbath. Also, looking at the story of these 4 records, how they all 4 came about, I always feel like Sabbath had a little bit more to prove than Ozzy did, because you're taking a completely different singer and making him the voice of a band that's already been around for 12 years and people already love. They've already sold millions of records. They broke here in America, which was crazy for a fucking British band at that time. So you're completely changing the face and voice of Sabbath. I feel like Sabbath had more to prove. And from reading Tony Iommi's book, he was actually very nervous for Heaven and Hell to come out. He was like, fuck, what are we going to do? Are people going to hate this? And here's a great story from that book is they took the album to a strip club and the girls loved dancing to it. And that's when they went, okay, I think we got a hit. Pretty
Good way
fucking cool
to test
story.
out the album. I got to try that.
Pretty fucking cool story.
That's where you go wrong.
I mean, not for nothing. If you can make a heavy metal record and hook chicks, you got to hit. You got to hit.
Yep.
That being said, favorite songs off Blizzard, Suicide Solution, Mr. Crowley, That's Never Gonna Leave Me from that first time. And I always consider Revolution and Steal Away one track. So that's my next favorite track on there because they fade into one another. I'm a stoner, so I love Flying High Again. That's one of my top favorites off Diary of a Madman. Self-titled track, how do you not love that? The guitar pyrotechnics in that are just fucking nuts. All the classical shit going on with the acoustic, it's just amazing. And SATO is such an underrated
Now you're
track
talking.
off that album. Under fucking rated. People don't talk about that song very much. As far as Heaven and Hell is concerned, Children of the Sea, I love because knowing the backstory of that, that's the first song that the Dio era of Sabbath ever worked on. So that song makes it cooler for me. That story, rather, makes it cooler for me.
Mm-hmm.
Lonely is the word. I can't tell you how many times as a fucking hormonal depressed teenager, I listened to that song and cried my eyes out because those lyrics are just so fucking intense. And Die Young, another great song. Now we go on to my favorite of the 4 albums is Mob Rules. There's not one dull moment. There's not one song where you're like, meh, that's the throwaway track. Not one. Not fucking 1 minute of that album goes by where you're like, I could take it or leave it. For me, from beginning to end, it's my second favorite Sabbath album of all time, and I think it's the best thing they ever did with Dio. So,
My second favorite too.
Off the Edge of the World, Sign of the Southern Cross. Being a stoner, how do you not love that track? Because it just takes you on a ride.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, I've heard Dio say he left Rainbow because he was sick and tired of Richie trying to push love songs on him. But Country Girl is such a great love song because it's badass. The riff rules, the chorus rules, and it's a song about wanting to bang a Southern chick. Who doesn't want to do that?
Done it many times.
True.
Fucking great song. Fucking fantastic song. And also what I love about Mob Rules is knowing the story behind it. That album came out, and after that album came out, Warner Brothers came knocking on the Dio's door and said, hey, dude, we want a solo record from you. So I feel like that album kind of leads to Holy Diver. I mean, ultimately, sure, it does, because that's the next thing Dio did. but it's just, I don't know. For me, I put it together like that. I have this weird thing where when I say I love Black Sabbath, I also mean Ozzy solo. I also mean Dio solo. I also mean Tony with Glenn Hughes. I also mean GZR. I put everything under this one umbrella like that. So it was kind of hard for me to break it down, but it's fucking Sabbath, man. It's always Black Sabbath. It's always going to be Black Sabbath. That shit's just in my DNA. Love them.
Cool.
Mob Rules, favorite album. My vote's for Sabbath.
Awesome. Very well done. Thank you, bud. Thank you. Hopefully
Thank
no
you,
YouTubers start saying shit by that.
I hope they do.
We don't give a fuck.
My ass.
Yeah,
How about that?
Take your phone off the hook.
Awesome.
That's right.
James, stirring the shit pot.
All right.
James is a great addition to the channel. Thank you, James.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Definitely.
We should have had him 3 years ago.
Better late
All right.
than never. I love you guys. I'll do this every episode where I have a vested interest in the topic.
Yes.
Good.
All right. Up next, we have the only member on this panel that's more of Empire than Ovi, and it's Count Ralphus. You're up, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, this is tough. All 4 of these albums are classics. They're both, all 4 of them are in the top 20 first albums of heavy metal that I even collected. So they all go back really far with me, going back to the Columbia House days. But,
I still owe him money.
Me too.
We all do.
We all do, yeah.
My dog had an account.
Daddy.
I made an account under the name Kerry King once, and I got the CDs.
Did you really?
I got the CDs.
Oh shit.
So yeah, the Ozzy and the Sabbath, I only like the Sabbath a tiny bit more because these are my favorite 2 solo Ozzy albums, and they're my 2 favorite albums that Dio ever sang on out of all his whole career. But so first I'm gonna go Diary of a Madman. Here it is on cassette and CD and picture disc, and then my original one. I'm sure Tony's gonna outdo me on that collection there. So then my next I'm going with Blizzard of Oz.
Woo! Nice piece.
Knucklebone.
Knucklebones, yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's a great.
Got the CD and the album, and for the Diary of Madman, the title tracks amazing. Over the Mountain, that drum intro, and Believer, they're the 3 songs I picked. Blizzard of Oz, I go with Suicide Solution, Revelation, Mother Earth, and Mr. Crowley, one of my all-time favorite guitar solos out of any song. And it's my favorite Ozzy solo album. I like it a hair more than Diary of the Madman. Then next, going over Mob Rules. I got the deluxe edition on CD. Got the old cassette.
Nice.
Got the record store day picture disc. Then I got the special edition deluxe on vinyl.
Yeah.
And then I got my Vinny Appice signed this one, my original Mob Rules album.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like when you were saying going from that to Dio, you also forgot it's half of Black Sabbath went into that first Dio with Vinny playing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Huge.
So then the songs on that, Neon Nights, Die Young, Children of the Sea, and Sign of the Southern Cross. I told the story once before, but I was seeing Black Sabbath down at PNC with Dio singing, and we had good seats in like the second level, and I kept watching they were letting people go down into like the pit area and the front row area, and I seen that, like when groups of people were going by, they weren't checking tickets because it was like deeper into the show. And I told my wife, I said, let's just try to sneak down there. We'll go next crowd of people we see walking down that way. We'll just go right in. And sure enough, we got right up on the stage in front row. At one point, I got a picture of my hand, like almost pulling Dio into the crowd. I was going to try to steal him and like put him in a bag and run out with him chain them up. I was gonna chain them up in my basement and make them sing songs to me forever.
Yeah.
But anyway, at one point I was going crazy. I was headbanging up there, and I put my back on the stage and I had my arms up with the horns up. And Dio, during the sign of the Southern Cross, he put the Maloik right on my head. And it's like I said it before, it's like being blessed by the Pope, or it was one of the greatest moments I ever had at a concert. I'll never forget it. And but I've always liked Heaven and Hell a tiny bit more. Is the cassette, and the deluxe CD version, and picture disc. My original from when I was a kid. And here's like when they put it on 180 gram vinyl before they did like the deluxe version. So I even got that. And I'm not usually one of those people that get multiple copies of stuff, but one of my favorite albums.
Oh,
so yeah. I think I fucking fucked that up before. I was mixing some of the songs, but anyway, Neon Nights, the title track "Heaven and Hell" has always been one of my all-time favorite songs, and "Die Young" and "Children of the Sea." Yeah, so that's it. So if I have to choose between both camps, I have to go with Black Sabbath, but it's not by much. They're very close.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Let's go to North Carolina to Mr. Tony Dio.
Hey guys, yeah. So I've told the story before. My introduction to Sabbath, Ozzy, Dio, all things combined was a guy gave me when I was about 12 years old. Gave me a cassette, like a TDK cassette, and it had Heaven and Hell on one side and Blizzard of Oz on the other. So the first of each. So that was kind of my introduction. And I was just getting into heavy metal. I was picking up, magazines. I remember picking up Hit Parader and reading an article about this war between Black Sabbath and Ozzy. Having a war of words. Who was better and everything. And Randy had already died. Magazines are kind of behind a little bit when they would come out, and Randy had died like a few months before that and stuff. So just kind of taking it all in at once. But I'm going to start out with Blizzard of Oz. Here's my Japanese copy of that. And top 3 songs on here: I Don't Know, Suicide Solution, and Mr. Crowley. Mr. Crowley, that's one of the best Randy Rhoads recorded guitar solos on that song. Got a couple of props to show you for that. So on the back of the regular version that most of us don't have this live shot of the band. So the UK version of the album, they changed the logo a little bit. It's not the red logo. It's got a kind of a chrome looking logo, but the back cover is a picture of the band.
Oh shit.
With Ozzy with a beard in this photo.
Oh, yeah.
Song titles and all still the same. I have a Mr. Crowley single here, for 12-inch single for Mr. Crowley, and it's the live version. They released it a couple of times as the picture disc, which they would call it the Mr. Crowley picture disc. Very common, and then sometimes it's just live at the live EP.
Thinking about you. That's B-track.
Wow. So what's that?
You said all.
You said it all. It was an unreleased track. It's on the live EP. Yeah. What was it? I got a tour book from the tour that a friend that saw the tour gave me the tour book from the Blizzard of Oz tour. Actually, this is a Diary Madman tour, that is. And when he saw him, I think Randy had already passed away. This is an oddball, and this is a Korean cassette of Blizzard of Oz. And in Korea, sometimes they change the album covers. Sometimes they take songs, they admit songs that they felt offensive. So Suicide Solution has been removed from this album. It's not included on this cassette. I guess they deemed it, inappropriate or something, but it's got your Korean writing on the side. I'll give this record a 9 out of 10 because I think No Bone Movies, it's an okay song, but it's just such a silly song. And if you're familiar, there's a B-side called You Looking at Me Looking at You. Great song, great guitar solo. They should have put that on instead of No Bone Movies. No Bone Movies should have been the B-side.
Who doesn't?
Hey. Yo.
Oh, 20 stop. Okay.
Keeler had a disconnection.
So yeah, so this is a pro montage on side B. So it's all the songs from Diary of a Madman blended together like a little montage. And
wow.
that's a
Wow.
pretty neat piece that went to radio. And I have a Czechoslovakian pressing. It's like a bootleg pressing. It's got like a
Wow.
very weird looking cover. It's got some Czech writing on it. It's got all the songs on the back listed and in the Czech print as well.
Is that like a really thin paper cover to it?
Very thin. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those before.
Favorite. This one is really neat. A friend of mine gifted this to me a few years ago. This is a Korean pressing of Diary of a Madman. And like I said, sometimes it'll change the cover art or omit songs. Well, they changed the cover art, and all they did was zero in on the cat in the window. They took Ozzy, Ozzy's kind of scary looking, so they took Ozzy out completely. You get the black cat in the window, and they took the title track "Diary of a Madman" is not on here, and "Little Dolls" has been removed as well. So there's only 6 tracks on here. But yeah, and the song "Sado," supposedly, I forgot what Bob Daisley said he was going to call it originally, but Ozzy stood for Sharon Arden and Thelma Osborne, which are the 2 women in his life at the time.
Oh, most people thought it meant sailing
away or something.
Across the ocean.
Yeah. It's
sailing across the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that better.
So moving on to Black Sabbath. And that, like I said, that's my favorite Ozzy record. I give that a 10 out of 10. Heaven and Hell, great record. My favorite tracks on this are definitely Neon Nights, Die Young, and Children of the Sea. But it's not a bad track on here. It's just a great album, 10 out of 10. Here's a single for Die Young, 12-inch single.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Here's a live bootleg album that came out. It's called Their Satanic Majesty's Return. It's live from Providence, Rhode Island, 1980. And this is like with the old bootleg records. They were just white covers with a Xerox cover in them, And moving on to Mob Rules, my all-time favorite Black Sabbath record. Over everything, Ozzy, everything's my favorite Sabbath record. Favorite tracks on this is definitely Falling Off the Edge of the World's my favorite track on here. And I love Sign the Southern Cross and Country Girl, but it's, like I said, not a bad track on this one. 10 out of 10 record. Got a couple singles for that. Here's a Mob Rules 12-inch single. And I've got a picture disc for Turn Up the Night.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I have the tour book for the Mob Rules tour book that a friend gifted to me as well. And some autographed pictures are in there of the band that someone else gave to me that they had gotten on that tour. So we've got 3 10 out of 10 records, 1 9 out of 10 record with Blizzard of Oz for me. So Black Sabbath takes it for sure.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
But I love them all.
Very
They're
cool.
all great
Very
records.
cool. It's funny how sometimes you have to like break it down like that to be able to come up with an answer, but that's pretty much a lot of us. That's what we did. Thank you so much, Tony Dio. All right, Greg, you're up, buddy. Usually go first. Now, like you're like middle of the pack.
Thanks, and it's good to see everybody and some of the people whom I've never met before. It's nice to meet everyone. This actually wasn't that difficult of a decision for me when it came down to all four of these albums, and I might say a couple Steve Levin-esque things before Steve Levin speaks. So I don't. So but we'll just go with that. But anyway, starting with Blizzard of Oz. There's a few songs in this that really aren't my favorites, but I still do enjoy this album. I mean, I like my favorites would be I Don't Know, Suicide Solution, and probably No Bone Movies, even though musically it doesn't really fit with all the other ones because it's more of a fun rock and roll-y type song, when compared with the other ones. But and then with Diary, I prefer Diary over Blizzard, but my favorites would be, same as Tony said, Over the Mountain, Little Dolls, and the title track Diary of a Madman. I also really like SATO, but again, the ballad Tonight is not a favorite, and I always preferred live versions of Flying High Again because it sounds a little too slow, I think, on this. And the production on this even sounds way better, in my opinion, than on Blizzard. And I like this album better than Blizzard. Sorry. If,
I'm with you.
Steve may back me.
Never say
Keeler may
die.
back me up on that. So
I'm with you.
But that's with Ozzy. Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. All eight. I enjoy all 8 songs on this very much. It's it's one of not that many albums that I have that you can play the whole thing, and for me that you could play the whole thing, and it's an enjoyable listen from front to finish. Mob Rules. There's a couple songs on this I don't. Well, I mean. Country Girl's okay, not one of my favorites, and Over and Over I never really cared for. Becklaga, Ovi, I looked that up.
Okay. Since you said it in Norwegian, you're gonna get
is not one of my favorites, but the 6, 7, if you count the intro, Evil as the intro to the title track, Mob Rules. Collectively, I actually like those songs more than all of Heaven and Hell. So when it comes to all 4 of these albums, Mob Rules is my favorite out of these. So my heart goes with Sabbath, and so that's my choice for this.
Very nice to hear a different perspective on these albums. So thank you so much. All right, Robert is next. Can't wait to hear what this guy's got to say.
Well, I mean, it's really hard because you've got one guitar player, the writer, who started an entire genre, and one who started an entire subgenre. I mean, Randy was responsible for the onslaught of neoclassical guitar players early on. He was literally one of the first. The first album came out. I mean, Revelation Mother Earth was. I mean, I thought that was like amazing. Some people can say that Ozzy Osbourne saved their life, and I can say that literally because I was in a bathroom with a friend of mine learning Steal Away the Night when 2 of my friends went out, and I was supposed to go with them, and they got into a car wreck, and one lived and one didn't. So I would have been in that car if I wasn't learning Steal Away the Night.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of an eye opener. Crazy Train, Mr. Crowley, Suicide Solution, I Don't Know. Just amazing stuff. I mean, sometimes we start off one of our sets with like I Don't Know or something. It's just it's a real, it's cool. And Diary, you have Sato, and right into Diary. To me, it's almost like one song. I mean, they're cut apart, but they kind of blend right together perfectly. Over the Mountain, Flying High Again. Diary's my favorite of the 2 albums. I just like the tone a little better. The first album is a little, I don't know, it's got like a little poppy blend to it, but Diary is a much more darker and more Sabbath-like. And then you get into Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, the song Heaven and Hell. I mean, with a melody so good that the crowd sings it. I mean, what more can you say? I mean, they sing the melody line. Lady Evil, we stole our name from. Neon Nights, Die Young, Wishing Well, even is like one of the lesser known tracks, but great lyric. Lonely is the Word, a simple riff that just like takes over. And Children of the Sea, perhaps one of the best Sabbath songs. And the Mob Rules, perhaps my second favorite Sabbath album. I actually like Dehumanizer is one of my all-time favorite albums.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Great
cool.
album.
Yeah, that's great. We do I live. It's people don't really know what it is, but they really like it. Mob Rules, Turn Up the Night, Voodoo, great track. My favorite track, actually, Obie stole it from me over and over. Sign of the Southern Cross, that's great stuff. I don't know. It's to me, it was it should have been harder than it was. Right when it was brought up the topic, I thought it was great, and I knew right away that the answer was Black Sabbath. Those two albums. If you put the two guitar players together who wrote these things, let's face it, Ozzy he wrote 3 songs in his entire life. He doesn't write the lyrics to these. He doesn't write the melodies to these. But you put Randy Rhoads against Tony Iommi. Clearly, Randy Rhoads is the more accomplished guitar player. But Tony Iommi is the riff master. I mean, nobody writes riffs like Tony Iommi. He said it by his own account that he's got like thousands he's never did anything with. I can't imagine what he's hiding in a closet someplace. And it's Black Sabbath. It's hands down. It's not even, as much as I like the stuff with Randy Rhoads, it's not even a contest to me. It's Sabbath.
Yeah. Cool. Very well.
Amen. Praise Iommi.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, that's Tony Iommi's why I became a heavy metal musician. Straight up. It wasn't Randy Rhoads. It was Tony Iommi.
Like Tracy is alone on like Ozzy Island there.
I'll stand on it. I'll stand on it.
We need to find somebody to
I
join
was
us.
there.
The funny part is I thought I was going to be alone on the Sabbath Island. I figured out these guys were going to shred me for not picking Randy Rhoads.
Uh-huh. But I agree with you with the neoclassical, which is a favorite of mine too. Beyond my death,
I mean,
yes.
I love Yngwie. I've seen him like 6 or 7 times. But
what's the name of that Mexican or Spanish classical composer that he has taken Diary of the Madman intro from? Because it's pretty identical to a classical piece.
Yeah, I don't know who he took that from.
No,
it's a classical piece that sounds just the same, so it's kind of cool. That's what the Lemmy comment that he was like. Lemmy said kind of things about him that he wasn't as great as people have it. Some will say because he did copy a lot of stuff.
They all copied. Led Zeppelin stole half their catalog from like the old guys from the 20s. Everybody steals. What Tony Iommi had a great comment once. He says, "If you're going to start a band, he says the first thing you do is get a lawyer."
Very nice. All right, our mole. Let's go with Mr. Controversy himself, Stephen Levin.
Well, what can you say bad about these albums? I mean, there's really nothing. There's nothing to be very. I really can't be too controversial in this episode because there's really nothing that I have bad to say. It was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. I should have realized it. Randy Rhoads definitely had a lot to do with my guitar playing. Not that I play anything like him, but just inspirational wise. I still remember getting, I think it was Doug Marks used to do this Method of Metal that you could buy in Circuit magazine. And Doug Marks learned how to play Randy Rhoads cassette so that I could learn some of those riffs. So, both these albums came out at a very formative time. I was in my mid-teens when they both came out. And I had already had a very long history with Sabbath. I probably heard Sabbath when I was first somewhere around 6 or 7 years old, when my dad would take me to these parties, so to speak. And I would go sit down in the basement while him and his friends would hang out upstairs. And then, I'm sure everybody realizes they were out there smoking weed. Of course, I didn't that young. And I was allowed to come upstairs. I'd come and hang out and they'd give me some munchies or whatever, and I'd hang out and we'd listen to music. And I still remember their one friend, this guy, Warren had a true quad stereo. So a quad stereo, instead of breaking music down into 2 different channels, it breaks it down into 4 channels. It's super old school. So, not a lot of people really know about it. And he had reel-to-reel tapes back in the day. They actually made reel-to-reel tapes of some bands, some of the bigger bands like Zeppelin and Sabbath and stuff like that. So he had Sabbath Master Reality on Reel to Reel. And I went upstairs and I was sitting basically right next to one of these giant speakers, and Children of the Grave came on. And I just still remember just the effect that that had on me at that age. And at that point, I was already watching like Hammer horror movies. And because my grandparents were so cool like that. Like I used to like stay up and watch all these really cool movies, all the Dracula movies and everything. So I was really into that. And Black Sabbath really sounded like watching a Hammer horror movie or like one of the old Universal movies that had that atmosphere. And then when it ended, it was that Children of the Grave, Children of scared the fucking shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. But it really had an effect on me. So I already had Sabbath is gonna, ultimately, to make a long story short, Sabbath is gonna win for me here. Just basically because of that. But to break it down, I'll start off with Ozzy. Blizzard of Oz, the first album. I saw it in Record World for people that are local. You remember Record World. And back then, if you wanted to find stuff like Budgie, Motorhead, any of the old Metal Blade records, Slayer, for example, that was in the import section. There was one little row of records, and that was the import section. And if you're in Middletown, you go to Record World. If you're in Newburgh, I think they had a Record Town in the Newburgh Plaza, which was much the same thing. And I still remember seeing Blizzard of Oz, and it was the copy that Tony had showed that had Ozzy with the beard on the back. That was the first original cover. That was an import back then on Jet Records. And I still remember seeing that. And of course, I reached my pocket. I was in high school, I don't know, maybe 10th grade, $5 in my pocket. Import records were $9.99. You'd look on the letter, it had a letter on there. It had a J on there. And you'd look up, and the farther down on the alphabet went, the more expensive it was. So J was pretty, it was mid-price, but it was more than I had. It was $10. So I was like pretty heartbroken. I couldn't buy this. And I was walking through the mall and I saw my best friend's sister, and she was just such a sweetheart, such a cool person. And I told her about it, and she actually gave me the money to go buy the record. So, a great story that goes with that. So I love the album. I would rate that an 8 out of 10. My favorite songs on that are Mr. Crowley, Steal Away the Night, and I Don't Know. It does have a couple songs on there I don't really care for. I hate Goodbye to Romance. I don't care what anybody says. It's just, to me, it's too ballady. It just doesn't go anywhere for me. If you're going to do a ballad like an Aerosmith or Accept or something, it has to have something to it. And that, for me, that ballad just really has nothing. Okay, so then jumping over to Diary of a Madman, out of the 4 albums, believe it or not, this is actually my favorite of the 4. I adore this album. There's not a bad song on it, really. I listened to it so much when I was a kid. I still remember the effect this had on guitarists back then. Randy Rhoads, kids going out and getting their Capizios so they could look like Randy Rhoads. I never did that, okay? So, but I'm just saying, that's the effect that Randy Rhoads had, that people were like, we're going to wear Capizios on stage. And there's a couple local guitarists that I am not calling anybody out by name because you know who you are, but whatever, I was influenced too. I wore stupid shit back in the day too, but not Capizio because they were sort of like ballet shoes. Come on, guys, So Diary of a Madman, I listened to it so much graduating year of summer. I can still remember going to Ocean City, Maryland, graduating year when the whole summer was over. I worked at the Orchard like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, saved all my money, blew it all in like a week in Ocean City, Maryland on alcohol, drugs. And the thing we listened to the most was Diary of a Madman. And so just great memories with this, and bad memories because the hotel room that we stayed in, which was in my parents' name, got trashed. And I got a little bit of trouble for that. Don't ever leave people in a hotel room that you don't know that's in your name, and just split. So there was quite a bit of damage. But favorite songs on this are Over the Mountain, Believer, and SATO. I love that song, man. I don't know what it means, but whatever. It just has such this atmosphere to it, and I just love it. It's probably my favorite song of all of them. I rate that album a 9.5 out of 10. Can't give it the Holy Grail 10 out of 10, but 9.5, definitely a little bit better than Blizzard. Then jumping over to Sabbath, which I've already spoken about, Heaven and Hell, great album. Was the last record that my grandparents ever bought me in 1980. My family moved to New York. in the middle of 10th grade. It's a fucking horror story. Don't ever do that to your kids. Anybody that has kids, keep them in the high school they're in. Don't move them out of the high school. It's fucking tragic. Trust me. It's real bad shit. So, but that was the last album my grandparents ever bought me at Luskin's in Maryland. And Luskin's was like an electronics store, but they had a record section. So they got me that on cassette. And man, I listened to that thing until the thing didn't even play anymore. And the thing about that is this was a different Sabbath. This was kind of like, this was our Sabbath. The Ozzy Sabbath, as much as I loved it, was more like my parents' Sabbath. Like my dad had these records, you know. My dad didn't have these later Sabbath albums. So this is when it kind of changed. And I had already known Ronnie James Dio from Rainbow. Somehow or another, I had seen them do a live performance of Stargazer back in the day. It was a Castle Donington show, and Dio wasn't on that, but I looked up the album and got Rainbow Rising, and that album was just, that's a massive album. So that's really my favorite Dio performance. But I knew Dio coming to the fold was just going to be great for them. My favorite songs on that album were Neon Nights, Heaven and Hell, and Die Young. I give that numeric album, I give that a 9 out of 10. And then Mob Rules, that's another great album. I give that a 9 out of 10 as well. My favorite songs of that are Voodoo, which is my favorite Sabbath song with Dio singing. I love that song. It's got some sort of crazy like atmosphere hook to it. And just when he's like, it's Voodoo. It's got that little, like, I don't know, it's just the hairs go up on my spine, you know. It's good stuff. Turn Up the Night, Sign of the Southern Cross, and Mob Rules, which nobody mentioned the fact that that was in the movie Heavy Metal. Which I love, and the way that comes in with the intro, and then when the song kicks in, like the attacking forces come in, and it's like it's the mob rules, you know, and just great stuff. So, I mean, collectively speaking, I have to give it to Sabbath, because Sabbath has 2 albums that were 9 out of 10, even though Ozzy had the 9.5 out of 10 for Diary of a Madman, and the first one only gets an 8 out of 10 for me because of some of the songs on it. So Sabbath wins this one just by a hair. I do prefer Ozzy with Sabbath. You know, that's just the shit that I love. But this was more Sabbath, so it definitely holds a special place in my heart. And I was fortunate enough to see the Mob Rules tour, Madison Square Garden. So, you know, just great stuff. But yeah, Sabbath for me too. So yeah, Sabbath is this close to a sweep. If it weren't for Tracy, Sabbath would be running away with it. Well, I mean,
they're running away.
Screwed it up for everybody.
Total sweep.
Yeah,
Hey,
thanks, Tracy.
Mr. Levin, do I remember correctly that the version of Mob Rules from Heavy Metal is a different version?
It
than
is.
the actual album?
Yes.
Different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Are they like?
Yeah, it's just
are
like
they
Time Machine's different from was it Wayne's World?
Yes, Wayne's World, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were almost like I thought they were even tuned differently.
A little bit.
I have to like.
Some of the lyrics are
sure.
different. Some of the lyrics are different. The way or the way he sings it a couple times, it's a little
Crazy.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you so much, Mr. Levin. All right, the promoters of the stars, Ed Farshtey, you're up, buddy.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah, so this is a fun topic. I love doing this homework. This is cool. So these 4 albums, I mean, they represent a brief moment in time where the stars aligned and just 2 perfect bands were created out of the original Black Sabbath. Just absolutely phenomenal. And as brief as their periods were, they were absolutely flawless in every way. 4 top albums, classic albums in every way. Unfortunately, I did not get to see either one of these tours, you know, back in the day. I was just too young back then. But, you know, so I got to see Heaven and Hell a bunch of times, so I at least got to see the band live. But great fucking times. Ozzy and Randy together was just a match made in heaven. Randy's playing is absolutely brilliant, as many people has mentioned. And he really complemented Ozzy's vocal style. They just gelled so well together. It was absolutely perfect. Let's see here. So both of Ozzy's first two albums, like I said, all-time heavy metal classics and very influential on me growing up. Black Sabbath, the original Black Sabbath. I was still kind of young growing up, so I knew them, listened to them, but I was just discovering them with a whole lot of other music at the time. So by 1980, I was now an 11-year-old kid, and to an 11 and 12-year-old kid, Ozzy was heavy metal. And by 1979, I was all about metal. So when Ozzy separated and then did the solo albums, everything was Ozzy to me. He was the madman. He was God. He was just a larger than life character, and I love the music. So let's see here. Some of the great songs, of course, I mean, the whole album is fantastic. I don't know, Crazy Train, even though it's way overplayed and overdone. It's still a great song. You know, it is what it is. Mr. Crowley, all-time classic. No Bone Movies is the weakest link on this album, but it's still a fun song. I definitely like it. Revelation Mother Earth, my all-time favorite Ozzy song.
Wow.
Bar none. Always loved it. Just brilliantly, beautifully, musical, lyrically, just in every way. I think it's a perfect song. It's just fantastic arrangement. Don Airey's piano piece, is just phenomenal. It's just so emotional, so beautiful. It's just a perfect song. And then the way it builds up and just kicks in and then goes to Steal Away the Night, flawless, absolutely fantastic, perfection. Funny note, I had forgotten all about the song. I'm looking at you, looking at me. I listened to the song on Blizzard of Eye. I was like, what the fuck's this extra track here? I was like, wow, it's been years since I heard that. So that was fun. Diary of a Madman, more of the same. A little darker than Blizzard, but more of the same, just classic heavy metal. Over the Mountain, Flying High Again, Can't Go Rock and Roll, Little Dolls. Tonight, I would say, is the weakest link, but again, a fantastic song, and really a song I can't really flaw. The title track, another one of my favorite Ozzy songs, just brilliantly arranged, beautiful song. And as great as those first two Ozzy albums are, I gotta say, the Sabbath albums with Dio, a little bit better. I mean, Sabbath were Sabbath. I mean, they were the gods of heavy metal for very good reasons. So when this change happened, it was massive. Again, I was just discovering all this. So unlike some of you, I love saying older than me guys out there, tonight, basically, you had a better appreciation for the big change going on and the anticipation of what was going on. Me, it was all new. It was like Black Sabbath, this album, Black Sabbath, that album, just discovering it all. It was later years, that I started putting the timetables together. And just absolutely fantastic records. What can you say? Perfect combination of talents and brilliance. Tony Iommi is just, as we've all said, an absolutely brilliant songwriter, brilliant guitarist, one of the all-time best. And Dio, unquestionably, one of the greatest vocalists and lyricists of all time in heavy metal. And their combination together, just absolutely masterful and brilliant in every way. Heaven and Hell, Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, absolutely fantastic. And the title track is just, I'd probably say my second favorite Black Sabbath song next to Black Sabbath. All absolutely love the song. Just died every time I watched them play it live. There's just so many songs. Die Young, fucking love that. So aggressive, so energized. Mob Rules also kicks off with a really high energy opener. Turn Up the Night, just really kick ass. Kind of the aggression even reminds me of the Born Again album. Just really, really in your face and just fantastic. Sign of the Southern Cross, as everybody has mentioned, just so brutally heavy. And the album is flawless in every way. Let's see here. Country Girls, Suicide. I mean, it's slipping away. Every song is just fantastic. Falling Off the Edge of the World, another brilliant song. Both albums, all four albums, fantastic. Both eras, just absolutely brilliant. I would edge out Black Sabbath personally, but only by a hair. Those two Ozzy albums are just so influential to me, so important to me. But musically, I got to go with Sabbath a little bit more with Dio. So that would be my choice.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Ed. All right. Coming from all over the world. I don't even know if he still speak English or not, but we're going to know very soon. Mr. Jordan McEntee, welcome back.
Hey, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you guys. It's been a little bit. This was a tough one for sure. I mean, I'm such a huge Sabbath fan, and some of my favorite Sabbath stuff is the stuff with Dio. So, it makes it really difficult because this is also my favorite era of Ozzy's solo career. I mean, nothing he ever did was even remotely close to as good as these first two Ozzy albums. I mean, for me, Diary of a Madman is like, man, one of the best albums ever. I mean, I just love the whole flow of that one. So, it's a tough call. I mean, I guess without like going over all the stuff that everyone's already said, because you kind of already said all the great stuff about both the albums, but at the time, I definitely would have picked Ozzy Osbourne and Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz. That's my favorite because those were amazing gateway metal albums for me as a young kid and stuff. I mean, even though songs like Crazy Train are like so ridiculously overplayed and stuff, it's kind of like Paranoid or something. I never need to really hear it again and I'll be fine. But those were great gateway songs. And Randy Rhoads' guitar work is just, for me, top notch. I mean, that was like the sweet time for me learning how to play guitar, and just listening to that was such a massive inspiration and stuff. Man, I had, the photos of him on the wall and the posters and stuff back then. And, and then having, the rest of the band, Lee Kerslake on drums. I mean, that drum work on that album is just phenomenal. I mean, Bob Daisley, I mean, I didn't know how important he was back then. I mean, I think at that time I still thought the lineup on the album, with Rudy Sarzo and what was it, the other one? But anyway, they Tommy Aldridge. I thought that they were on it, but I just knew that music on that was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, especially being a young kid at that time, hearing something like that. And actually, for me, even though I was into Sabbath, I didn't really know the Dio Sabbath albums at the same time I knew the Ozzy stuff back then. So I didn't. It was almost like, for me, the Sabbath with Dio was a little more underground, I guess, than the Ozzy stuff was, because when the Ozzy album came out, I think it was a super commercial thing, and with Sabbath, it was still more. It was big, but it was more like a cult big or something like that, not a commercial big like Ozzy kind of blew up and stuff. So I didn't take on to the really the Dio Sabbath stuff until after he left, and I listened to the Live Evil album, and I was like, holy crap, this stuff is amazing or whatever. But we're talking now, so I think I don't agree with Ovi said about Heaven and Hell being like a weaker album or like a more commercial album. I think it was a perfect transition from what they did from Never Say Die, which, even though I love Never Say Die, I mean, Steve knows that. I think that it was a great transition to kind of getting a little more back on track with the more basic heavy. And I think it was a perfect transition of having Sabbath. It has a little bit of the old in it. You could hear the jam of, Bill Ward and Geezer Butler in there, but then you go move to Mob Rules, and it's almost like it gets a little more, I don't know, it loses a little bit in the swing, but it gets more in like the power. Vinny Appice brings just a different vibe to it, but I think the transition to me is just perfect. I mean, because I can't see any complaint with it. So anyway, if I have to choose now, I hate to choose Black Sabbath, but I have to go with Black Sabbath because I listen to those albums more than I listen to the Ozzy albums. And I think Black Sabbath was able to still recapture their greatness after that. And I think Ozzy has been almost like living off other musicians that came up with pretty good songs that were trendy at the time and kind of were popular. But I don't think, I think Black Sabbath, in my opinion, is a more respectable project than Ozzy turned into after a while. In my opinion, as a fan, you know, but I love Ozzy too, as long as he would have stopped after
Yeah.
maybe I don't know, Bark at the Moon or something would have been fine for me. But yeah. So yeah, Black Sabbath I go with.
Cool.
Very nice.
Fun to hear that you have a different opinion, John. That's kind of cool to hear that we have a contrast going.
Yes. Yeah, I like to point those out.
Yeah.
Makes
That's what
it
it's all
fun.
about.
Yes.
Hey, am I going nuts? Or is anybody hearing a beep every once in a while?
I do
No.
hear
Oh,
it once in a
nuts.
while.
You're going
Yeah, I hear
nuts.
it.
Every episode, there's a bit.
Oh
Yeah.
I
Somebody have a
thought
fucking pager? Is it
the only
1990?
time I heard the beep was in the background of maybe Ed's, but I haven't noticed it too
Yeah.
much.
It's possibly. Sometimes I have a beep in my house alarm. I don't even notice it anymore.
That's probably it.
Anyhow,
I know
Who we got?
there's like 25 people at my house, and I have no idea what's going on. So. Thank you, John. All right, he's been very patient. He's been quiet. He hasn't killed anyone yet. Myles, you're up, buddy.
The sound of the Southern Miles.
Yeah, all right. It's good to see everybody.
Yo.
Hold up, record.
Pick up Miles.
I own majority of stuff by these bands, but I'm gonna get into the albums real quick. First album I'm gonna talk about is Blizzard. Blizzard of Oz. Love this record. Songs I love off of it: Mr. Crowley, I Don't Know, Suicide Solution. I mean, Ozzy is one of those bands, like if you're from the South, you love this is one of the first heavy metal bands or groups you ever heard of. And I know everybody down here in Louisiana loves Ozzy. Like I know some people that probably have altars of Ozzy in their fucking basement or some shit like that. Well, we don't have basements, in their closets or something. But next record I'm gonna talk about is Diary. This is my favorite Ozzy record. To me, nothing he's done before or after even comes close to this record. The first song I ever heard off this record was Over the Mountain, and it fucking blew my mind. You know, Randy's guitar solo, the drum intro, the riff, everything on this fucking record is just amazing to me. You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, Flying High Again, SATO, and my favorite Ozzy track of all time is Diary of a Madman. That, you know, that acoustic intro and just that blasting of that fucking Randy Rhoads riff just going into this song, it's fucking amazing in my opinion. So my favorite Ozzy record, I'd give Blizzard a 8 out of 10. This is a fucking 11 out of 10 in my opinion. So yeah, this one goes to 11. But I will say this, I've said it in the comments, there's no comparison in my opinion. Sabbath is going to win this one for me. Heaven and Hell is one of the greatest. Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules are two of the greatest records I've ever heard before in my life. First time I ever heard Heaven and Hell, that fucking opening riff to Neon Nights just fucking blew my head off. And when I first heard Dio with Sabbath, I knew Dio before with Holy Diver, and I've heard Rainbow before. And then when I got into Dio fronting Sabbath, I didn't know how I was gonna feel because I love the Ozzy stuff. But when I first heard it, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't give a fuck. Dio with Sabbath is my favorite, you know, period of Sabbath. Every record he's on to me is fucking amazing. And Heaven and Hell is, you know, the title track. I mean, come on now. If you're a heavy metal fan and you don't sing every word to that song when it comes on, I mean, where's your heart at? Yeah, it's great. You know, Children of the Sea, Neon Nights, like I said before, Die Young, probably my favorite song off that record. So that gets a 10 out of 10 from me. But here's the big one. My favorite Black Sabbath record of all time.
Wow.
And that's Mob Rules. The first time I ever heard this record, my uncle gave me a cassette of this record, and he was like, "Man, you got a cassette player?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Go in my cassette thing and pick out some albums. You can bring them home and you can listen to them on your little boombox cassette thing." I think I picked like Van Halen 1984 or something else, you know, like a Zebra mixtape or something like that. But when I saw the cover for this, I was like, holy fuck, I need to listen to this record. And, you know, starting off with Voodoo, Turn Up the Night, and then going into Voodoo, just loving it at the time. And then Sign of the Southern fucking Cross came on. And I remember where I was to this day. I was listening to that fucking big boombox thing that I had next to my closet, and Sign of the Southern Cross came on, and it changed my life in a sense, because I was just amazed at this song. And then listening to the whole record, you know, a song that I love off this record is Slipping Away. I love that fucking riff that Tony's got. It's fucking nasty. It's like
Bass
kind of got
solo.
this. Yeah, it's fucking great. Country Girl, I love. The Mob Rules, fucking amazing. I mean, come on, man. Like Falling Off the Edge of the World. Oh man, that song is fucking amazing as well. So I'm giving Mob Rules a fucking 12 out of 10 to give this one the highest rating that I can fucking go with. It's one of my favorite records of all time. My favorite Sabbath record, and definitely there was no comparison when I first heard that this is the topic that we were gonna do. I knew it way before that Sabbath is definitely taking this one.
Cool.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about Dio's vocals on some of those songs are very emotional on Mob Rules. I mean, there's something like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's something really special that he puts on certain songs and certain albums. You hear it a little more than other ones, where it just has this emotion, and you just feel it's something honest coming from him in the song. He's not just going through the motions.
It was crazy because like Sign of the Southern Cross, it's emotional through the first part of the song, and then when the chorus hits in, it just sounds fucking like that kind of emotional thing just turned to fucking evil. Just all at once. And when he says break the crystal ball, I'm looking for a crystal ball and I'm ready to chuck it across the fucking like, dude, amazing record.
I love that you talked about the album cover too, because it's one of my favorite album covers of all time. And if you get the deluxe edition of this album, it talks from the artist's point of view. The dude had a nightmare about this scene.
He did.
And fucking painted it when he woke up from having a nightmare. Nice. So it's pretty cool.
And does it say Ozzy right here? I mean, I don't know. That's the fucking story. I like to believe it says Ozzy. His fucking name's written with blood. Fuck
yeah,
it does.
You can see it at the bottom, and
kind of does.
And the face on the tapestry almost looks like Murray from Dio. The Dio,
it does.
You know, mascot.
Yeah, you're right. One thing I noticed about this album is it's one of the. I don't think it's normal, but if you look at the back of this album, it's got the title tracks, but they're not in order.
No, they're not,
and it's odd.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a little odd because you don't see that very often.
I like at the bottom where it says special thanks, it says you. Thank you for buying this record with 2 fucking crosses. Now I wish they were
Yeah.
upside down, but
Oh boy.
Very Dio thing.
Did any of you guys that are old enough have the Mob Rules or the Live Evil painter's cap? That it had like a flat top to it, and then this picture was on the
Yes.
top.
I
of the
I
cap.
may
never
have
had
I
it.
And then
think
it
I
had,
have
I
that.
I had one.
it had Black Sabbath across the front, and then it had two devils on the sides that said
Yeah.
Live Evil.
Man.
I
I
see
don't
it
know.
at Spencer's
I
or
had
something.
those as a kid, and I had that hat as a kid that I used to wear all the time.
Where
Yeah.
is it now? Did you save
Faded
it?
faded and gone. Chris
Faded.
Allo has one because I asked him about it, and he said, "Yeah, of course he doesn't know where it is, but it's somewhere." But he said he has one.
My
So,
mom washed mine and it fell apart.
yeah.
Aye.
That and also when Steve Levin had mentioned about going to the shore, I always remember as a kid all the games that you would play, and they had those glass framed pictures.
Oh yeah.
Of, there were so many
Yep.
of Diary of a Madman, and
Yeah.
that was always like one of the ones that you would always see, out and about, at all the carnival games that they would have.
Carnival mirrors you're talking
Yeah.
about. I
Yep.
have quite a few of
Few
them
of
on
those.
display at Rock
Coke
Fantasy.
mirrors.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, I guess you
Tony
could have called
Iommi
them
can get
too.
his coke
Yeah.
off
Yeah,
that.
like what
Yeah,
Ralph
because
has.
I
Yeah.
heard Sabbath before I knew Sabbath because I heard Pantera with Planet Caravan, and then also I heard like an Overkill. Overkill had the album in Wide Fucking Open, and like on track 97 or track 98, like 10 minutes later, it's like sing me a song. I'm a singer. He sings there Heaven and Hell. So that's the first time I heard Heaven and Hell, but I didn't have a clue that was Sabbath.
Nice.
I have a few
Still
of
have
the.
I still have a last in line Coke
Okay.
mirror. Carnival.
I have a
Good
few
artwork.
of
That's
the.
one of the best artwork ever.
I have a few of the carnival mirrors in this room, but I can't move it around to show everybody. I'm looking at an AC/DC one, and I have a Black Sabbath one. There's a couple different ones, and Steve Levin's familiar with that. I think Steve, you had a couple. I think you sold one to John, my friend John.
Yeah, actually, I sold the one that I've sold that one that Ralph's showing right now.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, that one.
And
No,
also, I sold him the
fucking
Ozzy
awesome.
one that Ralph showed before.
mm-hmm. Now that one that you're showing
Executioner,
there, Ralph.
that one.
Yeah, I
That's
have one
awesome.
of those at work.
And then I also had one that had like a demon, like a red demon. He was flying. There were a bunch of legions of demons behind him. It was also on a tour shirt back in the day.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Now that first one you were showing there, Ralph, that had the pentagram with the Reaper coming up out of. I have a different one that has Geo Butler. It has from the Heaven and Hell years, which is
Oh, no shit. I never seen
it's a little different. Where that's a black. It's an actual mirror back. I'm looking at it now, but
Yeah.
I don't think
That's
I can show
my
it.
favorite one. That one's so fucking cool. How
Mhm.
evil that is. That's
Yeah.
fucking magnificent.
Badass.
Nice.
Anyhow, this was a great episode, guys. Thank everyone for spending their time on Wednesday night with us here that's on the panel. And of course, people that are watching, if you dig this channel, please take a moment to subscribe. It helps us out. Like and share it around on your social media and all that good stuff for us. And it's good to
Wait a
see.
second. Denny didn't go yet, did he?
No, Denny didn't go. Come
Yes, we
on.
got to get Denny in here.
Wow.
It looks just like Ozzy's in the
So
screen.
before hit like and subscribe anyhow, and now Denny's gonna pull this thing and wrap it up.
I'm gonna make it very simple, like so Sabbath as well for me. But when I had the idea and like conversation I was seeing online as with other friends, I didn't know it was gonna be a 13-1 almost sweep of Sabbath.
Yeah,
Like there's a couple points that John mentioned that I think it's important to enhance even a little bit more. Is that from a commercial standpoint, it's not even a close match between Osbourne and Sabbath. Like you're talking close to 25 million copies sold for both records worldwide for Ozzy against maybe 4
Yeah.
If we're so it's so when we were at that age, when I was 14, and I saw Randy Rhoads live, and like the impact that it has as like you mentioned, the transition from like Kiss, Stan Nugent, Aerosmith into being more metal with the onslaught of good
Neoclassical
records
sound.
from the new wave of British heavy metal, and like after that, like everything changed. But I before Aggression, I used to be in a cover band called Phase. Of course, because we're Canadian, we used to cover Rush. But we did play actually 4 songs from Mob Rules. We played Mob Rules. We played Turn Up the Night. We played Sign of the Southern Cross, and we also played Falling Out the End of the World, just because the music was so powerful and so majestic. And we were huge fan of the heavy metal movie. So we used to play Veteran of the Psychic Wars,
Oh,
I Blister Calls and shit like that. So yeah, like I think like when I was 14, maybe I would have voted for Ozzy as well. But now, like looking back, and a lot of people talk about Randy Rhoads, but I'll tell you something. Like Tony Iommi's solo lead guitar performance on fucking Mob Rules, the album, is fucking ridiculous. Like I mean, it's so it's so good and soulful. Can't even speak English.
Emotional and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, it's so emotional that it brings it to a different level of performance. And these 2 records back to back, very hard to beat by any other artist. Like it's so good. So yeah,
And
13-1 with Tracy.
I'll still stand on Randy. I
one thing
was 9 years old. I got to see him play with Quiet Riot with my
Wow.
cousin.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that was a big influential point of it too.
Yeah.
Just having his stage presence, like it was such a quiet little guy. You put him on stage and the whole crowd just shut up. It was amazing. Like, when he stepped on stage, you knew you're going to witness something extraordinary. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and Tony had a whole lot of more years of writing,
True.
before that,
Hey,
Randy was very young. We didn't get to experience any much more than what we got right there, you know?
I
The little
also think.
dilemma though
sorry,
is
go ahead.
that if Ozzy has left Black
Hey.
Sabbath, Randy Rhoads would have been alive today.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's true. But
Yep.
I think too, it's difficult, albums to compare to each other, because even though they both come from, basically Black Sabbath beforehand, they're so different, and they trigger different aspects of why I like them and stuff. So it's really it was a really difficult choice. It's not like you're comparing apples to apples, I mean, you compare Randy Rhoads' guitar playing to Tony Iommi. Yes, Tony Iommi is my guitar god pretty much, and Randy is kind of too, but it just, they're in different ways. There's different reasons why you like each one. To me, they're so far apart that it's hard to really compare, because what one's good at, the other one might be as a different way of getting a cool feeling, whatever. I mean, because they're both feelingful guitar players, but on the opposite spectrum. One's total kind of more of a jam vibe to it. One's a more meticulous, classical influence guitar player.
There's no doubt
clean,
that
very clean.
Randy is the better guitar solo, better guitar player, but it's like Tony has the songs.
Yeah,
and he has the vibe in the solo. I think Tony has a great choice, note choice. Even if he's not shredding all the time, he just knows how to hit those solo notes that just make you go, "Holy fuck!" What an asshole. He just wants to piss me off at how good he is. But Randy's technically an amazing guitar player. You can't take anything away from either of them, really. They're both were phenomenal back then.
Diary of a Madman was a bitch to find on to pick up on, on the 12-string guitar with no tablatures, no fucking nothing, and just listen to the record like, what the fuck is he doing there?
Yeah, and they also were able to, like, especially with, say, like Revelation, Mother Earth, and Diary of a Madman song, and some of the other ones, Ozzy was able to get that dark feeling, but in a completely different way than Sabbath does their dark feeling, especially on those Dio albums, which is good, actually. You know, it's good that he started off really strong and identifying himself as, you know, this is, you know, me, even though it wasn't just him, it was the whole band, but this was like, he was making a statement that is distinctively different than Sabbath, at least in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, night and day.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up about Dio, if I could. I'm a big fan of just about everything he ever did, back to Rainbow, even some of the Elf stuff. All his, well, not all his solo stuff. Definitely the first 2 solo records I think were awesome. He had some clunkers in there later on, but
The
then he
90s.
went back and did Dehumanizer, which was great. And then Heaven and Hell, you know, they got the band back together. But one thing that I could say, I cannot listen to Dio sing the Ozzy songs. I just
Really?
it's too theatrical.
I love it.
Yeah,
Like
I love it.
if I listen
I
to
love
Live
it too.
Evil, if I listen to Live Evil, I just listen to the Dio Sabbath songs. When like any of the Ozzy Sabbath songs come on, I gotta skip them.
Well, but I think
When
Dio
Dio
felt
sings
on that
NIB,
too,
oh
because
man, it's
Dio didn't
great.
really want to sing Ozzy songs.
Well,
So I think Dio was aware.
Yeah, he made him. He did try to make him a little more theatrical, like when he does Paranoid and he goes, "I must be blind, I can't see."
but I think though the Live Evil version of those songs are not really the best versions of him, covering the Ozzy
I've
stuff
heard
either.
better.
If you
Yeah.
listen to other either bootlegs or some of the other releases, I think there was one they released later from Hammersmith Odeon. I think he does a better version of the Ozzy songs. It was almost like maybe he knew he was recording them and he was kind of going a little bit overboard, trying to, you know, identify him as his own style or throw his own style in there. But more on the other versions I've heard from the bootlegs I have, it definitely, to me, it sounds just fine. I mean, I like I like the Live Evil version, but I think the other live albums are actually better than, or the live bootlegs and stuff are better than that album.
That new remix of Live Evil it's different in some points when you listen to it. It's different takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought that from Rock Fantasy last week.
You did, thank you.
I was talking to Chris Arlo about Live Evil, and we kind of was pissed that they didn't use all, like the box set, and to use all the shows that was used, like to record that album and like give out all the shows in that box set.
Yeah,
they could have released each show that they used, like kind of like Lizzie did with Live and Dangerous, and UFO did with their set.
Wow.
Because then what John says, then we would have heard the different, because Dio might sound different from night to night. It depends on how he feels. So
they use two different techniques. Dio, Ozzy sang the melody line. If you listen to NIB, he's singing the guitar part, just the lyrics over top. But Dio sings over the melody. He's more theatrical that way. And so for him to for Dio to go back and sing like, you know, the NIB lines, it's just not, you know, it's like horses for horses. It's just not what he does.
Right.
So Tom, you said you didn't like Dio covering Ozzy material. What do you think about Ian Gillan doing?
Man,
I love it.
When I heard,
Me too. Love it.
Sabbath, it was like my birthday, man. I was like, oh my god, like my favorite band with, you know, one of my favorite singers joining. But I saw that tour as well, and that was great.
I was there.
I think he actually sings the Ozzy Sabbath songs a little bit. To me, I like the way he sings them better than Dio does.
Okay.
And what was cool about that tour was the last song brought the conga drums out, and Sabbath with Ian Gillan played "Smoke on the Water." Which is definitely not expected.
That was a night. Where did you see it, Tom? Did you see it at Brendan Byrne or Meadowlands?
I think it was the Meadowlands. Yeah,
I was there. It was Quiet Riot opening up, and I tell you what, it was like October, maybe. I don't. What time of year was that? I got to Google it, but
I think it was kind of cold. Yeah.
I was at something already, and I was drinking, and my wife picked me up, and we drove to the Meadowlands, and I was hammered before I even got into that place. And I tell you what, at that time, I liked Quiet Riot, Mental Health, but after that night, I didn't like Quiet Riot anymore. And I tell you what, the Sabbath crowd was not very kind to Quiet Riot on stage that night. If you remember, they were booing, yelling, and no one wanted to open up for Black Sabbath. That's how mighty Sabbath was back in those days. And I tell you, and it was I was in the if in hockey terms, I was in the upper deck behind the net, and and you could see the whole thing. And man, I was actually drunk, but trying to sober up enough to enjoy the show. And I remember the whole thing. And literally, when Born Again, when that was on, it was like seeing visions of hell. And I feel that's the most evil Black Sabbath record.
Oh my God!
I think
serving the priest, Jesus, that's like horrific.
Yeah.
If you
Merciful
haven't
Fate or something.
Yeah, if you haven't heard what we got Ian Gillan singing the song Black Sabbath, do yourself a favor and check that out on YouTube. It's some of the most evil stuff ever. His screams in that are just like it's unbelievable.
For sure.
Unbelievable.
Well, anyhow, this episode is running pretty long, and some folks in the panel probably have to get up and go to work in the morning. But anyhow, Tom's raising his hand. He's got to go to work. Danny, anybody else got a last word? What do you think? We've got this wrapped up this time?
I would like to give a shout out, if you don't mind, real quick. My buddies in Faded Line, upstate New York.
They're going to be with us the 27th.
That's right. They just put out a brand new CD. I was smoking a joint and going grocery shopping before and blasting this all through my town. It's so fucking good. It's got suicidal tendencies elements. It's got madball elements. It's got crowbar elements. Check these guys out. Buy their new CD. They will be at Quinn's Pins Saturday, April 27th, Hudson Valley United Throwdown. And the proceeds from that show are going to the Pets Alive Animal Shelter. So check them out. And also my boy Carlo, who plays bass for them, plays guitar in this band, Gartlock.
Okay.
Very brutal slam death metal from Massachusetts. So check them out, Gartlock, on Facebook and Instagram and Bandcamp. Go get you one of these badass shirts.
Go.
Check it out. So grab the shirt, grab the CD. And also Saturday, Record Store Day.
Yes.
Go to Rock Fantasy. Go to fucking Disc and Dat in Bethel, Connecticut, and support. And there you go.
Record Store Day. Yeah, we're gearing up. We got spent a lot of money on records.
New High on Fire Friday.
High on Fire comes out this week. Yes. Also, I am going to be hosting a pinball tournament in the store. If you're in the area, we've got a Grateful Dead tribute on Friday night. Grateful Years is in town. It's also 420, James. So
that's right.
Orange County Cannabis is our dispensary in town. We're collaborating with them, and we've got Psycho Circus playing at Quinn's Pin. So it's the Dead and Kiss this weekend, and then the following week, of course, Tracy's helping us out with this big hardcore metal punk festival, which starts
it's my intro show.
1 in the afternoon and goes all the way to midnight. So come on out for a great cause for that. And John McEntee, before we go, we're going to wrap it up. We want to hear what you did. You were in Europe for a few weeks. People were wondering why he wasn't here. Incantation went to Europe. Decapitated, Nervosa, right?
Busy. Yes. And we did a European tour with those guys, and it was a total blast. We had a great time. The shows were great. It was more like Southern Europe, played the Balkans, like Italy, Spain, Portugal. And I mean, it was really great because, like I said, the shows were really packed. I mean, either sold out or close to sold
Cool.
out in decent sized venues. And also to make it even better is that everybody was super cool on the tour, all the bands. I mean, I've known most, Nervosa and Decapitated a little bit here and there for a while, but to tour with them was really, we made it really pleasurable and it was a lot of fun. And then we did some UK dates after that, which were also totally awesome and stuff. It was great. We got to play like Ireland, which I haven't played for a while, and like Scotland and Glasgow and a couple of places, a couple of sort of places like Leeds that we haven't played for a little bit in the UK. So it was, a blast. It's great to, get to play some death metal with some cool people that, everyone's just having fun. All the bands are kicking ass. And, I made people that are going to be, strong friends for life now, so it's awesome.
Cool. Now, Decapitated are coming to the United States. They're going to be around here next weekend, the day after the 27th to 28th. They're in Brooklyn with Septic Flesh and Cataclysms on the tour too, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna die, Stephen.
I have a ticket, so I think maybe we'll carpool. So
yeah, that sounds
there's
good.
a lot of shows coming up in the tri-state area when that 27th week. There's a bunch of stuff coming around right now. To whether you can afford to go, I'll be at Judas Priest tomorrow night. I'm going to see first night of the tour, so I will be surprised. I won't be able to look at setlist.com or anything to see what's playing next. So I'll be the guinea pig for the set list. So.
Yes, I'll probably be there, Stephen.
All right, so I guess we can wrap this up, and we'll be back next week. We haven't decided what we're going to chat about yet, but next Wednesday I'm around. The following Wednesday I won't be around. So Denny or someone will run that sucker. Don't you get all excited, Obi, because I'm leaving for a week. You can do your Obi wants to do his Taylor Swift episode while I'm gone.
Hell yeah.
We wasn't supposed to talk about out loud.
All right. So we'll see you guys next week on the Rock Fancy channel. Once again, please take a moment to subscribe, mention your favorite stuff from this out. And usually I would get in trouble for picking an episode like this by Denny because he'd say, you picked it too easy. It was almost a sweep. And now you did it. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.